Hi everyone, thank you for joining the 5th edition of the Lockdown Advisor. As a lot of you probably already know, my name's Phil Pilgrim and I'm part of the corporate development team here at Implemented Portfolios. Thanks firstly to those who tuned in last week for our chat with Sue Viskovich. Based on the response and the questions following that session, clearly struck a chord with a lot of you, so I'm glad you enjoyed that. Just before we get going, for those who haven't attended before, try and make these sessions as interactive as possible. So you'll note on the dashboard for your GoToWebinar, there's the opportunity to type in questions. That's live, so type in those questions whenever you like, especially today, given we've got even more of a panel with both ladies able to answer your questions as we go. So please type in those questions. We've already received some questions prior to the session, so thank you very much for everyone who sent those in, because that'll get us going. So marketing is what we're talking about today. So many of you have asked about it. Some of you do it a bit, some of you do it a lot, many don't do it, lots want to do it, lots would love to do it really well. It's a bit of an enigma in the advice world, I find, and judging from the conversations we have, it would indicate that's definitely the case. But yeah, the reality is we're all in marketing whether we like it or not. So we can either face into it and get really great at it, or we can pretend it's not there. Pretty hard to pretend it's not there given the current climate we're in, especially where contact and communication's pretty much everything for our clients. And we've got so many ways, so many avenues to reach out to our clients. So today we're going to help you along the journey of marketing. And I'm happy to introduce our panel of two. It's Girl Power today with Naomi Christopher and Jenny Pearse. Hello, ladies.
Hi.
Now, I'm going to talk you up a bit, if that's okay, so bear with me. So not just two ladies who do a bit of marketing, two ladies who are kind of legends in the space. Jenny is Managing Director of Genesis. She's got a business consultancy that she founded in 2006, and for the 14 years, she's been helping financial services organisations, financial advisors, business owners, and their teams to succeed and flourish in the current landscape in terms of their marketing strategies. Naomi, which is no secret, I don't think, to anyone, is our National Head of Marketing and PR, not HR, Naomi, not that, PR for Implemented Portfolios. Naomi, by her own confession, is a brand builder. She's obsessed with reading and writing and loves communication, marketing, public relations, relationship management, and has spent a wealth of time and has a wealth of knowledge in financial services. I think it's fair to say that these two legends would have LinkedIn account contacts that would put most of us to shame. So don't feel bad, but I'm sure that is the case. So, ladies, let's get going. And you'd expect you would. I mean, you're in marketing. You're going to have thousands of contacts.
Good intro, Phil. Good intro. Oh, mate, I can see
you know, it's Happy Friday day, and I'm in a cracking mood. So, thanks for joining. I'm going to kick off with some of the stuff that we've already received in, just to get the conversation going. And as I said, guys, let's come in with those questions so we can make it as interactive as possible. So let's kick off. Probably a question for you, I think, Jenny. How important is it to have a marketing strategy during this time and to actually stick with it?
Wow, I too tend to get this question fairly frequently, which is no surprise, I suppose. Look, I guess to really apply it to the financial advice world, I would say it's like you sitting down as a financial advisor and talking to a client for the first time, running through all the potential opportunities that you have to work with them in regards to solving their issues, their problems, and then them walking out and going and having a go at implementing it themselves and really not achieving any form of outcome at all. Without a strategy, you can never really have a sense of what the purpose is for the campaign or the program that you're implementing, but also you can't actually test and measure, you can't actually understand what the outcomes look like. So a strategy is really paramount in anything you do. I mean, that is across the board in life, but most definitely in marketing. I'm not sure if you've got anything to add to that, Nate.
Yeah, I think like anything, people that start marketing for their business and give up, it's usually because they haven't set out a goal, or they haven't set out a plan. So they don't know when they've achieved success. And so it feels like they're kind of just sprinkling dust everywhere. And even if they get a blimp here or a peak in engagement there, if there's no strategy or plan, there's no way to measure the success, and it often will stop you from being consistent and keeping at it. And I think that's the importance of the strategy. Like an exercise regime or a diet, it's about having a plan in place with goals to keep you motivated to keep going.
Yeah, I think you know, it's important to have an understanding of what your strategy is. I just am very conscious of the whole a strategy is the be all and end all. It's very important to understand that, particularly in marketing, and this current crisis is you know, an exact example of it, that we constantly have to iterate. So a strategy should exist, but it should never be so fixed that you cannot move with the times that you're in. How's that for an answer?
Definitely. I completely agree.
That's a good answer. We had consensus. That was a good answer.
Yeah, well, the three of us agree.
That's a great start. That's a good thing we can't hear everyone else. In regard to let's get a bit more practical about it. So let's talk about some of the ways you can form up a marketing strategy and stick to it.
Okay, I'll throw in here. Obviously, niching in regards to who I work with, you know, predominantly financial advisors or working in financial services. I find it really does depend upon the style of the person you're working with. So, you know, some people work really well with, you know, putting a strategy together that is very image focused. You know, we do mind maps and they can see what the strategy will visually look like. Others like the written word and like the analytics behind a structured strategy. I think the thing that I spend a lot of time talking to them about, you know, is really, once you have a strategy, it's really about implementation. And a lot of that is really about structuring time. And for me, we spend a lot of time going, okay, if you're doing a do-it-yourself model, then book the time in your diary to actually do the work you need to do. Just as you would a client appointment, you need to actually invest your time into your marketing, because that is, at the end of the day, an investment in your business. So book a time in your diary. For me, working with people where we do, you know, we're working on do it with you principle, then we will book times where we will sit and discuss content, discuss what we're looking for this month or the following, you know, the upcoming quarter, and we'll plan that out from there. So it's really gets down to what I call an action plan from you know, which supplements the actual overall marketing strategy.
Yeah, the only thing I went up there is just being one of the ways, practical ways to make sure you stick with it once you know, you've got a plan worked out, is just being clear on deliverables. And I think it's pretty and who's undertaking those. In a small business, especially within advice businesses, often it's not there's no dedicated marketing manager. It's just everyone sort of pitching in to make sure that the marketing keeps going. And the one thing that usually happens that stops the consistency and success of a marketing plan is that, because it's just people ad hoc helping where they can, when they get too busy, that's the first thing that they let go. So it's, you know, if at the beginning of your strategy and making your plan, if you be really clear on who's responsible for what, and exactly like what Jenny said, mark out some time every week. You know, I tell people sometimes, they go, I don't have time for social media, and I just say 15 minutes a day, just 15 minutes a day. And if you can't do that, give me 5, because you can do something in that time.
I agree.
Yeah, it's just about dedicating the time the same way you would dedicate to other things in your day, reading emails, going for a walk, going to the gym. You've got to put in the time and make sure that everyone in the business is clear on what's their responsibility, And if it means that you're sharing it around, so if one person per month is writing the blog, then have that in the calendar, so that they know that it's coming up to your quarter when you've got to provide the monthly newsletter or whatever it is. So
I think that in the do-it-yourself model, a lot of the approach I recommend to people is like 2 30-minute meetings a week. The one at the start of the week, in the early part of the day while you're nice and fresh, and that's really about your content planning, where you're going, how you're going to put it together, you know, and you know what you want to be talking about. And the other 30 minutes can be mid or late in the week, and that's usually for the week that's coming. You know, so you're always roughly about a week ahead, and that's about going, okay, what scheduling platform can I use, or I'm going to direct to platform, and just get your content in, and that way it's kind of set and rolling for you. And don't say set and forget, but it's set and rolling, because sometimes disasters happen and you've got to get in and iterate you know what you're saying and what you're doing with people. Can't hear you.
Mute.
You would have thought after that many weeks I got that right, wouldn't you?
All good.
Right. So what I was saying, I just want to just pop in a questionnaire of my own, just based on my own experience and conversations I have with advisors. We're talking about iterating and time and so forth. One of the things I think when you're kind of small business and marketing isn't sort of a big budgeted item, you don't have a dedicated person, what I've seen people fall into the challenge of in the past is they just expect it's magic dust. So if I buy an ad on Facebook and I run it for a month, it's going to change my life. Can you talk a little bit about persistence and what it really takes to make a difference in marketing strategies?
Sure. I might go first and then Jenny can chime in. I use the term a lot when I talk about this stuff, slowly, and then all at once. Because often people give up because nothing happens in the first couple of months. That's normal. You can't expect to put out one bit of content and suddenly you'll go viral. People learn to trust you and learn to engage with you digitally through familiarity, and it's about being consistent with high quality content and being consistent with your personal brand that will actually in the long term produce the ROI. Initially, if you don't get something from the first blog you write, that's normal. If you look at any of the most influential digital influencers in the world, I can tell you that they didn't become successful overnight, that there's probably quite a well thought out and persevered with strategy to get to that point. So it's just about time, and the slowly all at once is even when you're not seeing the results, keep going, and then one minute you feel like nobody, you're shouting into the abyss, and then you look back the next and you're like, wow, I've got a community. So there's a bit of, mine's more like stay with it, be hopeful, and I'll hand over to Jenny there to see what she wants to say on the practical side of that.
I couldn't agree with you more. What I often say is that when you particularly, and I want to, just address this, that marketing is more than social media. But, in this instance, we're talking digital, but, from the perspective of getting something out there and, I do it once and why isn't the world suddenly changed? I just agree with the community aspect that, think of it like, you're going on your first date. People actually want to get to know who you are first and actually decide if they like you, and then ultimately, trust you enough to actually engage with you. And it is, the Woody Woodpecker approach. You've just got to keep at it, be persistent and consistent, and also clear in what you have to say. Champion what you believe in. You don't need to be a pale version of yourself. In fact, if anything, you've kind of got to bring yourself to the table a little tiny bit more, because it is a virtual world and people want to be able to know you, and they're not going to give you the same amount of time investment of their time, I should say, as they would if it was a face-to-face meet and greet for the first time. So if you think of a networking event where people would, well, not currently shake your hand, but in the past shake your hand and converse with you, in the virtual world, in the digital world, they won't. So you've got to be very in front. You've got to be consistent and persistent in everything you do. And I say to a lot of people when they go on the pathway of digital marketing that expect that this is going to take time. 12 to 18 months is not unrealistic. And that's not to say that you won't get reaction and action within that time frame. You most definitely will, but to get really strong milestones, it's going to take time. It just genuinely will.
Perfect, thank you for that. That said, though, sometimes I've never seen so much stuff go viral as gone viral over the last month. And I know
including a virus.
It's a bad term, isn't it? I know my little nephew and godson did something on TikTok recently that got 500,000. So he'd argue you can be an overnight sensation in marketing, but
yeah,
I'm not sure his mother's that proud. Okay, so let's talk about the current environment, though, in terms of marketing. Clearly, it's a different world, almost getting sick of hearing people say that, but it is. We probably need a bit of tact, though, don't we? So in terms of how we develop our marketing and implement our marketing right now, what do you guys think are some of the sensitivities that we need to be thinking about if we're starting to do some outbound stuff?
Do you want to go first, Jen?
Okay, so I was just going to say from my perspective that there's a couple of approaches in this. I mean, there are enough articles around coronavirus out there at the moment to sink a battleship, and social media news feeds are just drowning in it. Whilst it's important to inform people, I do think you need to keep the balance, and you need to check the pulse of your community and be very sure what it is that they're wanting to see and wanting to hear. And I always work with the view that there's 3 styles of content: the information-based content, the educational-based content, and the entertainment value content. And I think at the moment it's striking a balance between those things. I think we're overly informed at the moment, overly informed. I think people are keen for education, particularly from a financial advice perspective. They're keen for it. But again, it's striking that chord between inform, educate, and just keep entertaining. And by entertaining, I don't mean thousands of, crazy toilet paper memes. What I'm saying is, compassion, empathy, and yes, the occasional joke. It's okay to actually find humour in particularly in a time of crisis. But yeah, we need to be very sensitive at the moment because the temperature out there is quite difficult, very difficult, and you've got to be moving and being very flexible with your content all the time now.
Yeah, I think just to add to that is just to think about how your target audience is feeling at this time. Their goals have changed drastically in the last 6 weeks. I think Jenny and I were having this conversation about it. Even a few months ago, goals that were luxury and wealth have changed to family and health. So the way that you market your services will be very different. In fact, I'd say that the best way to market your services at this time is to think about how you want to be remembered by your clients in this time. And I think first and foremost, you want to be remembered as being helpful and being useful. And I know a lot of advisors are working around the clock at the moment and being that guiding light to their clients on a financial basis. I know a lot of people aren't in a great financial state at the moment. Even the people that are stable are a little bit wobbly over their financial investments. Then there's, everything from struggling families to families that are working from home. And if you're pumping them with marketing about technical SMSF stuff, they couldn't care less right now because they're trying to juggle 3 kids whilst, do their own job. So it's just about trying to put your shoes in how your clients are feeling and making sure that they see themselves and they feel heard in the message that you're giving them. And Jenny's 100% right. We're overloaded with information at the moment. Education that is helpful would be and useful and guide, like a sort of a guiding light would be my best bet in terms of content. And in terms of entertainment, I 100% agree with Jenny. Empathy, empathy, empathy.
Yeah, I think it's important to remember right now, your clients or your future clients aren't looking for you to provide the solutions. You're not in the solutions business. You're actually in the problem understanding business. And I think they really just want you to understand their problem and be the conduit to the solution, and your marketing should reflect that. And I think that, the sooner you grasp that and not try and be the solver of the problem, in your marketing, I think that will help, you build a strong know, like and trust relationship.
Thanks for that. Just a quick apology if you hear noise coming from me. I've got a dude fixing my roof at the moment, which is annoying because it makes noise and he's right above me, but doubly annoying that it's cost me a lot of money, and in the end I'll just have a roof, which I already had. So yeah.
Oh God, I'll do the same, proviso, because I've had police sirens going back and forth my window all day. So if that happens, guys, I'm sorry. I'm not being arrested.
And just a quick question from Matt. Matt wants to know if I'm going to play the guitar anytime soon. Sadly not, Matt, although I'm sure that would be entertaining. What I'll do, I might work up maybe an opening jingle, and we'll just do it at the start of each session.
Oh yeah, the Lockdown Advisors jingle.
Yeah, I'll just go old school. Hey, I want to get into. Has already had a question about it. Some practical stuff or cool stuff you're seeing advisors do. Before we get into it, though, can we just go back a bit? You both used the word iterate. It'd be nice just to talk about, what you mean by that, because let's put it into practical terms. I come up with a plan. I'm starting small. I'm prepared to go in for the long haul, and I start implementing my plan. I think what you're talking about is, when you're talking about iterate, is it mightn't all work perfectly the first time. You've got to be able to change focus and adapt. Can we talk about how you would go about that, what you'd look for?
Yeah, I think an example, for example, is you might have a marketing strategy in place where the end goal or the end funnel is to set up a meeting with you and the client, which isn't going to happen in this environment. So you're going to have to be able to iterate quickly and build up digital trust so that meeting may occur over Zoom, or perhaps it occurs in a different way. Zoom, Google Hangouts, whatever software you want to use. I'm not going to align myself with any of them. So that's a perfect example of just iterating your strategy slightly to reflect the current environment. The other thing is the content. So you might have a strategy in place for 12 months and for the next few months, say February, March, April, you had in place to, let's talk about insurance, let's talk about investments this month, let's talk about cash flow, and all of a sudden that doesn't seem very important to your audience, because people are trying to survive. So you've got to learn to actually put your ear to the ground and go, right, is my plan reflecting the current environment? Is it going to resonate with my audience? Because I can tell you right now, there's been a lot of criticism from just the mainstream, in even mainstream industries outside of advice, for brands that have gone a bit tone deaf on the current climate. And you just have to step on Twitter to see it. And so if you want to protect your brand and iterate, be able to think on your feet, it's just a little bit of thinking about, right, what is my audience feeling right now? Is what I had planned to put out, or is my strategy going to be successful in this environment?
I think it's similar to, and I can use an example here where, we'd been working on a long-term plan as for a client, and it was around May being a money makeover month. And it was a lead generation program, and we'd invested into building collateral, both from a social perspective, leading into some, sort of very small cluster groups of video presentation, that sort of thing, whole heap of stuff. And, for us to run a money makeover month in May, in the middle of a pandemic where people have lost income, and we're talking about spending versus saving, where what's going in, what's going out. Well, what's coming in right now for a lot of people is almost either zero or almost zero. So to sort of talk about a money makeover would be ridiculous. So obviously we need to iterate that campaign and reset expectation and go, well, can we change that particular campaign so it will still have a resonance, or do we just put that in its box on the shelf and bring it back online when the marketplace is ready for that conversation, and in the meantime going into a different phase? So that's where we mean iterating. It's really taking the temperature of what the marketplace is telling you.
Right, let's get into. I mean, I probably would have dialed into this just for this question because I like shiny things. But what's the cool stuff? What are you seeing? Let's have a jump at the coolest stuff you're seeing in marketing in terms of advice practices you're seeing at the moment.
You want to go first, Jen, or should I take the lead?
Okay. So cool stuff, I guess. Well, for the people I'm working with, most of them are already embracing the good stuff. Probably what I am seeing is a relaxing of the language. It's super duper refreshing to see people just be real people. Guess what? Financial advisors are real people. It just actually is so refreshing. I'm seeing people that have never wanted to touch video do video, and that's just excites me. I love it. And really embracing it, and also understanding that it doesn't have to be perfect. So that's probably from a face value perspective. Sure, we're seeing an upsurge of podcasts. It'll be interesting to see how the commitment holds to those things, both video and podcasting. I'm seeing a lot of general improvement in activity, just people being more present. So that's really good. I'm also seeing a really big uptake on tech, which is really exciting. People using tech to its true benefit, realizing that the technology that's available, publishing platforms, there's video libraries that people were never touching and now tapping into. All these things, the technology is there actually to make the doing part a lot easier, and people are now using these things. And before it was sort of like hard to push and we'd be struggling to get adoption. Now people are adapting and adopting really, really well.
Yeah, awesome. I think for me, what I've seen, some really cool stuff I've seen that I think could be easily implementable as well, which is what you want, is advisors, especially smaller practices that probably don't have a large marketing budget, just choosing one platform to dominate and doing it really well. Even in this current climate, I'm seeing particularly advisors that service that Gen X, Gen Y generation, forming really great communities on Instagram. And the way that they're doing it isn't by hiring a really expensive, Instagram influencer to help them do that kind of stuff. They're doing the consistent strategy where they can continually engage their community. I've seen the Instagram lives, really great Instagram live Q&A sessions where the advisor will go live and answer questions live to their clients, especially around, you know, the new stimulus packages or you know, government legislation, anything that's passing that may involve mums and dads and families doesn't have to link directly to their services. It just has to show that they're being of value to their clients and being that guide, like Jenny said, that conduit during that time. So Instagram Live, Facebook Live, the same thing. I've seen, yeah, just choosing one platform. Now, I just noticed in the questions section there was someone saying, what are a few steps that a small advice group could do? And that's one of the cool things I'm seeing is smaller advice groups just choosing one platform and really putting consistent effort into that, whether it is LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, a podcast, picking one thing and doing it really well. And that's how they grow their community. And once you have a community, you're not selling anymore. You're literally just showcasing your value. And that's the difference. And people who are part of the community are more likely to fulfill their financial goals because they feel like they're part of more than just themselves. They're part of a community now.
Yeah.
So that's the stuff I've seen that's really cool. And look, I know I bang on about social media, but I do believe in it. I believe that we are social beings. I know we might be having a bit of fatigue of it lately, because it's all we've got. But if you can back up who you are in real life, and there will be, I mean, we're going to go back to real life at some point, then, you know, digital is a good non-threatening way for people to learn to trust you.
Yeah, you've got to be careful about that fatigue. It's like the advisor who did that Facebook Live session. His wife was the only one that dialed in. There's some awkward moments. So, thank you for sharing those little tidbits. Can we get a bit more specific? We've got an audience question around high net worth client marketing, and it was directed at you, Jenny. So, do you mind just giving us insights into how, you know, you've seen success work when it comes to marketing into high net worth?
Okay, so there's a couple of things with this. It's a very broad question, which perhaps needs more detail to give you a true response. But what I will say is a couple of things. One, high net worth can mean anything. So by that I mean it's extremely general, and I highly recommend you stop generalizing your audience. You really need to take the time first and foremost to actually identify what your client personas are. Invest in that. I did a presentation earlier this year around this very topic, and labels, we're particularly in marketing, we're renowned for talking demographics and putting labels on things, but certainly from a marketing and particularly a digital marketing trend, we're looking much more at client personas or avatars so that you can understand the client far more than just simply saying, I only deal with high net worth clients. That may well be your niche, but you now need to create your audience. And by that, I mean build your client personas. So invest in that first and foremost. Once you can clearly articulate your client personas, I would most definitely create a strategy that builds into that. Now, that may or may not look like some things around written email campaigns that are very structured and very one idea, one moment in time type approach. And choose, similarly, what we were just saying a moment ago, choose a platform and work with it. And by that, I mean, where are your people? Because if they are not where you are currently talking, then you're wasting your energy and your time. So go to the platform that best suits them. And I can't say to you that all the high net worth people in the land tend to use one particular platform, because that's such a broad statement. high net worth people can be high net worth people because they have come into a major inheritance and actually not necessarily put, and earned that money. So to them, they're not necessarily going to be where you would think someone who has earned their high net worth position will be. So you need to really understand your client personas. You really need to build a strategy that actually addresses those client personas, but in the place that they spend their time. Typically, they will enjoy video and email. They will enjoy it. And look, really great campaigns that we've done with people that have high net worth style of client will take on board the video, and they will use email strategy, but they've also done closed Facebook groups, which are like a cabin club, like a flight deck approach, which is a closed environment, and it is basically for that, group discussion, but they are not open to you. They're for client only style client, discussion. But that would be kind of where I would go with that. It's very unusual that I could give you a straight out answer that yes, all of these things work for high net worth clients, because it kind of really does depend upon the persona themselves. Hope that answers that.
I think it
Pretty broad
does.
question.
Very well, thank you. Hey, can we talk about the platforms now? I know personally I'd love to hear about this kind of stuff as well. It's a question we got in. So, Facebook, Insta, Google Ads, LinkedIn, TikTok, what works best? We'll probably leave out Tinder, but what are you seeing working best?
I think just to carry on from what I was saying in the previous question, they all work well for different avatars and for different target markets. And for advisors that are just starting out with this, don't feel like you have to do all of them. Pick one. Like the question before, LinkedIn might be better for if you're targeting businesses or professionals. Facebook's and Instagram's great for that younger millennial clientele. However, once again, they have linked social media and tablet and smart device use to household income, not necessarily to a demographic for age. So if you think that your pre-retirees aren't on Facebook, I can tell you now, the data says otherwise, plus my anecdotal evidence of my mum being on there all day as well. It's just, don't think too rigidly about who you're, like Jenny said, about who your persona is, but just pick, if you're getting started, pick one and be consistent on that and then grow. Jen, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, look, I was saying earlier to Naomi and Phil that Facebook is about to hit a massive milestone, which is 3 billion, and I stress billion, monthly active users worldwide, which is a massive number, absolutely massive. So, the upsurge obviously during pandemic crisis has been quite huge. What is even more interesting is that a little over half, I think it's around about 1.4 billion of those users are in the Asia Pacific region. 60% of the Australian population are active Facebook users. So, and that's a huge number. Now, traditionally demographics show, and this is where I will talk demographic, the 25 to 39 demographic is the highest user of Facebook, and then followed sort of the 40 to, I think it's 40 to 55, are the second highest users of Facebook. Interestingly, the next most popular platform in Australia to Facebook is YouTube. That is roughly 15 million active users of YouTube. Now that can be because you've produced video as part of a campaign and you've loaded it into YouTube, and then you've got a campaign that's connecting your social media to your YouTube channel, etc., etc., etc. So don't ever underestimate the power of Facebook and the power of YouTube. They are together a mighty duo. Would I use LinkedIn? You're a professional service provider. If you have not got an A+ LinkedIn profile, you're doing yourself a massive disservice. Massive disservice. So I would highly recommend that you do that. Now, should you be having an Instagram profile? Well, if your client personas dictate that, then you most definitely should. And do you want a Twitter profile? Well, if you're an active user of Twitter already and you love the platform and you know that some of your clients exist there, then use it. Just be conscious that you should be, as I said before, where your clients or your potential clients are. Either way, everyone should have an A+ LinkedIn profile. Everyone.
Yeah, definitely the personal profile on LinkedIn has to be at all-star level if you're in professional services. And just to add on to that, I would not have personal profiles on all of these things or company profiles if you're not going to be active on them, because the worst thing you can do is get out of this webinar, sign up to a company profile on Instagram, sign up to a company profile on Facebook and LinkedIn, and then never post again, so that when someone does search you and searches your profile, they just see the profile, no picture, maybe 3 followers and no posts. So if you're going to do it well and commit to doing it consistently. But Jenny's 100% right. Anyone in this industry needs to have a great LinkedIn profile now. But when it comes to actually the company pages, make sure that if you're going to set them up, that you commit to them. One thing, like a little handy tip to know is, if you don't know already, is LinkedIn has an organic way of pushing your content into the feed that you don't have to pay for the same way you would in Facebook. Facebook's great, but company pages, it's pay to play. So you'll notice if you already have a Facebook, well, what's the point of posting? 27 people have seen it. Yeah, Facebook do that on purpose. They're trying to make money. So you can put at $20 or $30 behind a post, and all of a sudden there's 1,500 people that have seen it. That's intentional. LinkedIn are a bit kinder with their algorithm.
Much more organic.
Yeah, so if you're looking for a cheap way to get started on a company page, often LinkedIn is a great way to do it.
100%.
Know that if you do it properly with Facebook, you're probably going to have to put a budget aside if you want to get real engagement.
Yeah, I think the only thing I'd say about during the crisis, we've seen a little bit of relaxing of the Facebook algorithm when it comes to the business pages, the company pages. So they've been a little kinder. So we've seen a little bit more an upswing on the organic engagement of posts for business pages. So that's a small win for the business pages on Facebook, but I 100% agree. LinkedIn, it kind of lost favor, and look, you know, I'm not suggesting that it outplays Facebook by any means, but you should be using it to your benefit. Most people that have, you know, a work life will have a LinkedIn profile. So, you know, I would just encourage you to make sure yours is positive. As I said, A+. You give it some love. If you have a company page on LinkedIn, then look after it as well. Cross-pollinate the content from the company page to your personal page, so you build the engagement. And more than anything, comment and like within that newsfeed, because it will build your organic movement, your organic growth in that platform more than anything.
It's actually a really good reminder that social media is a conversation. It's not a performance. So in order to be successful personally and professionally, you have to participate in that conversation, and that includes liking other people's posts, supporting other people, joining in on conversation, commenting on other posts. You can't just spray can your content. run away, and then come back and expect an audience. I found a lot of LinkedIn and LinkedIn, Twitter especially, Facebook, all of them is just about participating in a mutual dialogue.
Yeah, 100%. I genuinely think we need to, give LinkedIn the love at the moment, because it is looking after us. So yeah, that would be my take on that question.
There we go.
Excellent, thank you. Any more questions, please pop them in now. We've had a few comments, not so much questions. Matt's throwing in some expertise for us to share, which I'm happy to do. Things like, the fact that Facebook and Instagram, Facebook bought Instagram some years ago, so your paid campaigns can be linked with those.
Yep.
Don't forget groups on Facebook. Groups are becoming a bigger thing.
Groups are all king, right?
And not just for buying and selling junk out of the garage. Like, there's groups that you can much more productive than that.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, when I was referring to what I've been seeing really great at the moment, it's advisors that have, I'm going to call out Adele Martin.
Yeah.
She's got a fantastic Facebook group going, and she's built a community. That's what we mean by community, and she gives them information, and it's not just about selling services. It's like they're all in it together, like a joint running group, and it's really great. So if you want to, you might be able to type that into Facebook and have a squeeze, but she's doing really great there. That's an example.
It's incredibly well done. A lot of commitment. Definitely doing a Facebook group. You cannot set one up and then invite all your friends, family, and clients to go and join it and then do nothing. So again, that's a strategy. That's an absolute strategy. So, and look, I think anything worthwhile doing is worth doing well. So, and groups are part, I think, well, they were trending last year. This year, before crisis, we were seeing an upsurge of those. The other thing we were seeing an upsurge of is less broadcasting and more niching, which I thought was really interesting. Instead of those videos and those communications that were going out that were very broadcast in fashion, people were suddenly getting brave enough to go, well, actually, I only want to talk to this type of person. And that was really good. It's softened a little bit at the moment, and I think that's a lot to do with where we're at. I think we'll see that start to come back online as we tip into the second half of the year, because people will completely refocus again.
Yeah, no, Jenny and I spoke at a conference earlier this year, and I remember one of the big tips that we discussed was getting brutal about who your client is, getting brutal about who your ideal client is. And when it comes to marketing and comms, even in this environment, your content, if it pleases everybody, it's not really directed at anybody. So it's okay if your niche is pre-retirees that are high net wealth. That's fine if your content doesn't resonate with anyone else. Get brutal about getting in front of those people and getting the message right for that person and that avatar or persona, as Jenny was saying. Jenny works with a fantastic advisor down in Melbourne, Nicole Hills, who only works with women, and the marketing strategy and content is purely based around that particular niche, and she does it so well. To anyone else it won't resonate, but that doesn't matter because she's not speaking to anyone else.
Yeah, and I think that's being brave enough and having enough confidence in yourself and what you do to go, well, it's okay that I only deal with those people. And yeah, I think it's a really good strategy, and if you have the ability to, as I said earlier, invest in building your client personas, those avatars, it will set everything else rolling from there.
Jen, there's a question saying, is there any practical strategies that one or two advisor businesses can take in their first or second step? I kind of gave my little bit. Did you want to leave any passing advice?
Sorry, say that one again.
Are there any suggestions for practical strategies that 1 or 2 advisor businesses can take as a first and or second step? From Joseph.
So, from a strategy, I would more than anything, as I said, I've already reiterated the personas thing. I would most definitely. One of the things that I tend to do a little bit with clients at the moment is get them to go and see if their clients are on LinkedIn. And we do what I call it Find a Friend Friday, where we go and sort of build a bit of a community and relationship with our clients beyond the normal paradigm, and that's usually on LinkedIn profiles. Once they're connected to you on LinkedIn as a client connection, and you can, sort of, hey, thanks Joe or thanks Joan or whatever for, coming into the office. It's a nice little feel-good piece. Then if you are moving to another platform, you can take those clients with you to that new platform where you can create a more conversational tone. So it's really a great way just to build the relationship in a virtual landscape, and do it through LinkedIn because it's the professional platform to do it, and then move them off to another platform. As I said earlier, more than anything, use a scheduling platform. What I can, to sit there and try and go, okay, Wednesday means I've got to do this post, and try and do it, through your iPhone or through your laptop, and be present enough to do it. Your time is money, and you have to use it wisely. This stuff is important, so invest in it. Do it wisely by, putting aside a little bit of time, scheduling in some content. Use libraries while you build your own content. That
Jenny,
would be my next thing.
Do you have any scheduling software that you recommend, or applications that you recommend?
Look, Facebook loves you using its own publishing tools, its own scheduling tools, and it will naturally, its algorithm will love you a little bit more if you do it, use it. So a lot of people in the industry will use the publishing tools within the platform, but that's our job, and that's why we do that. For someone that's just getting started, I tell everyone to use the free version of Buffer. I prefer it over all of the other platforms, and as a third-party publishing tool, it has a lot more flexibility than some of the others. It does allow you to connect business pages in without any problem. I think the free version allows 5 profiles, I think. But yeah, if you're just starting out, use the stuff that's free. And Buffer, most of them have a free platform. There are a couple of others, Hootsuite, Edgar. There's another one that I was looking at the other day called Plan, P-L-A-N-N. Haven't really got that one yet. I'm not pushing that one yet. But I've been using Buffer for ages. But I obviously use it as a small agency, so it has a little bit more flex.
Okay, cool.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Jenny. Look, we don't have any more questions, and we don't have a lot more time, so that's convenient. Thank you very much for that. I personally found that really insightful. I think, look, if you don't take a message away from this that's, something close to get onto this stuff, I think you're missing the trick. I mean, we're moving, the world's moving, the world's changing, it always is, but if you're not adopting these forms of communication and these types of marketing strategies, I do believe you'll get left behind, and you'll be in an old-fashioned model. So you've got to find these ways to connect with your clients. So I think some great stuff in there. I love the bit about Facebook groups as well, because I've noticed that's growing more and more. I know my subscription to the Flat Earth group has been very informative. Fun. No, thank you very much. And the other thing is too, guys, if you're still not sure about this stuff, because it is a bit daunting to get started on these kind of things, reach out to experts like Jenny. That's what they're there for, is to help you understand this better and get you going on this stuff. Budget for it and get stuck into it. You've got to make a start on these things. And
I think if there's one thing that I'd say is that you're experts in your field. You know, don't feel like you can't take the time to speak. You don't have to specifically speak to me. There's some amazing marketing people within financial services that I highly respect. And, you know, sometimes just a little bit of investment with someone they can set you up to help you go away and then do it yourself. Or as I said, you can do it with someone, you know, in a collaborative, you know, approach. So don't ever feel like I can't afford to do this, so I'm going to put it on the shelf and leave it till tomorrow, because tomorrow will never come. And my other one and only tip, if you have got any downtime, and I don't know too many financial advisors that do it right now, is give your website a refresh. Because more than anything right now, as much as people don't see you know, their website as an active tool in their marketing, it's by far one of the most powerful tools you have right now. Because if they're checking you out, the next place they're going is your website. So yeah, invest some time in your website right now.
Great, thank you, Jenny, and thank you very much, Naomi. Silent claps all around. Brilliant session. Everyone else, thank you very much for joining us. Just a quick note, as usual, there will be a blog out next week, which will have a recording attached to this session. If you want to refresh your memory in all those great tips, or you want to share it with colleagues, please do. What you'll notice next week, though, is you won't have an invite for a session for the Lockdown Advisor next Friday. Don't be sad, we're not stopping. What we are doing, though, we are making sure we keep the quality super high on the content that we're giving you, and we don't want to burn you out. There's a lot of this stuff being done at the moment. We like to think we're providing a really good level of quality content. We're going to keep doing that. That's probably short for the person we had planned for next week was rubbish, but that's not true. We just want to cut down the frequency and keep the quality really high. So look out for an invite over the next week or so, and we'll get together again 2 weeks from now. So thank you very much for joining us. Have a great weekend. I think it's only fitting that I close out with a little tune immortalised by AC/DC. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm just joking. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you again soon.
Stay safe, everybody.